And I have Jack Skellington tattooed on my shoulder. Butt? On my butt, yes.
The shoulder of your butt?
Jack Skellington is crawling out of my... What's this?
Nerd On.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to Nerd On, the podcast you didn't need, but you deserve, and where all levels of nerd are welcome.
You're all welcome here.
Yep, always.
I'll always
welcome.
take you into my bosom.
I got big arms for you. Big ol' arms.
He does. He's been working out like crazy.
And I'll read stories to you until you fall asleep.
That's true. That sultry, sexy voice.
So I've been told.
So I'm Josh. I'm one of the hosts, obviously. I do the audio for the show. I'm a producer for the show. Do all the website stuff and things and
He also
whatnot.
hosts us all weekly. It's very nice.
Yeah. Yes, we record this show in my house.
Home studio going
So it's
on.
like you're here too.
No, we're in a castle.
No, we're in a
We're in a beautiful,
We're in a spaceship.
Harry Potter looking castle.
we're in a penthouse that looks over all of downtown LA.
Yes. Let's get that rumor mill started. We're gonna go different, not go left. We're gonna go right.
Ooh.
Oh.
Right.
Hey,
Plot
this is
twist.
Ali, resident broadcaster, content creator, YouTuber, all the above.
He's that
My
guy.
name's Corey. I've taken up residence in this room. So I'm the resident. That's me.
He has a cot.
I'm a filmmaker with Tom.
Every time.
No, a content creator, and I just love the sound of my own voice, apparently. So there you go.
Yeah. We all like to stroke each other's egos every once in a while.
little bit.
My name's Tom. I am the resident comic book fanatic, film snob, frat dude,
Car Kier.
Grandpa
Spider-Man
Tom.
liaison.
grandpa, angry person, terminally Asian guy in the room, residenting
Yes,
here
quite.
today.
Still, it's
still
still
there.
sinking in. It's just
It was crazy when I found out 3 years ago. It's
Yeah,
like, oh my
that-
God,
man,
my
that's
life
crazy.
changed.
So we are going to be talking about films. Much like our video game episode, it's going to be our favorites.
Yeah. Get to know us a little more.
Yeah.
Can I just pause real quick? I'm really happy you said films
Yeah.
because
Not movies.
if you watched Entourage,
Okay.
there's a director who's like, I don't make movies, I make films. And it's just like that this
Brilliant.
upper level of snobbiness that you need, just like, oh, these are films, these are art. And
Hey.
movies, I watch movies.
This
But-
is Queens Boulevard.
It's okay if you
Exactly.
watch movies.
Bam.
By the way.
But for me, I don't care. Movies, videos, films. But yeah, I like to
all
call
good.
them films.
Gonna
But
go
we
to
wanted to let the viewers know a little bit more about us, who we are, what brought us together, what brought us to the places we're at today,
Our love for film.
why we decided to get together in a room, in a hot room once a week to talk about these
and
things.
put a
that we
mic
love so
uncomfortably
much. Yeah.
close.
In leather seats.
The only reason
Yeah.
we chose to do this is because
And
we love
leather
it
pants.
so much, and we want to share some of that love with y'all.
So yeah,
Yeah.
we're going to talk about films. Who
Yeah.
wants to start?
I'll start this one.
Okay.
This was a topic I was pretty excited about because I remember so vividly the moment it happening where I took film seriously, where I was like, holy shit, it blew my mind. Like, I don't think when this happened to me, I was at a place mentally where I could understand everything that was going
How
on.
old were you?
I was like 14, 15, I
It
think.
blew your 14-year-old mind?
Yeah.
Okay.
It was in my film is lit class, actually.
Oh, that's
and,
cool.
What's cool?
My now wife was sitting behind me, and I used to pass
Shout out to your wife.
notes to her in class.
I
Yeah,
did not
pass
know that. Fun fact.
Pass notes to my wife and my.
Was it
now
one of
wife.
those ones that you would fold
And
into
pass
like creative
behind me?
shapes?
Was it
Oh, yeah,
like
absolutely.
The football kick? You know, the little triangle?
The
you
little
kick it?
triangles? Yeah. Well, she would fold them. I didn't know how, so I'd fold them into like squares, and then I'd get it back. It'd be really nice.
It'd be like a heart. Or,
Yeah, whatever. You know,
Or it'd be
that
a
good stuff.
unicorn.
Unicorn. Yeah.
So it was my film was lit class. Marin School of the Arts. Shout out to Marin School of the Arts.
Ooh.
And it's Lawrence of Arabia.
Oh,
And
interesting.
at the time, you know, we watched it over the course of, it probably had to be 2 weeks because it's so long. There's like an overture in the middle of it and everything. But I had never been so in awe of something before. And everything from the acting to the score to the look and just the grand scale of the whole thing. I don't know if you guys have seen it.
You want to for the viewers, for the listeners, for all the lovelies that haven't watched the movie, you want to explain like just a little summary of what it is?
It's about the life and times of T. Lawrence, this gentleman in the English Army who went, and I believe it's been a while. It's World War One. I could be totally wrong about that though.
So it's during one of those famous world wars you might have heard of.
Here, Sir T. Lawrence, the English officer who successfully united and led the diverse, often warring Arab tribes during World War One in the order of the fight against the Turks.
There it is.
So there are specific scenes that this is one of those movies that to me is really brilliant with film language. To the point that every time I watch it, I'm learning something new. And like I said, when I was 15, I was not at a point where I could comprehend why I felt this way about film. I know that sounds so stupid, but like
feeling so many things.
I was like, I really was like, it was like my wife and I were joking about this the other day. We were talking about it. It was like, she's like, it's the only movie you didn't pass notes to me during because you were just paying attention to it so much.
Out of the honeymoon stage, that's what it was.
And like, you know, David Leans is the director of it. And I've watched some interviews where it's one of Spielberg's favorite directors. And, you know, I've listened to a lot of my favorite, the people who inspire me. They're like, what I did was find out who inspired the people who inspired me. So this was kind of like my way of going, okay, so someone like Spielberg, if I want to be in film. And
going to the old gods.
Right, exactly. What made him want to be great? And this is one of the movies he credits with that. And he says the same thing. I think he said he walked out of the theater halfway through and went back and had to see it another night because he was so overwhelmed with what he was like seeing, like he couldn't believe it. Wow. I mean, the transitions, there's this one transition, I don't know if you guys have seen it recently.
I've seen it.
Where he has this match and he blows it out and the next it's a jump shot to a sunrise. Ooh. And you know, David Leans went out into the desert at like 3 a.m. and waited for the sun to rise and got the shot. But the shot that of course everyone talks about is the Mirage sequence. I don't know if you recall this, but there was a special lens created, and I have the exact lens size written down here. It was a 482 millimeter lens.
He's showing me the notes,
and it was never used again. It was specially made for this shot, and it now sits in Panasonic's headquarters, and it's just framed up as like, this is the lens. Like, why would you ever need another 482 millimeter lens? So
why?
But it's beyond how it looks. There's something very magical about Peter O'Toole, especially in this movie, that I became fascinated with. And if you read up on anything about T.E. Lawrence, is like he wasn't this guy who went on this incredible journey, but he was kind of like a showman in a sense. Oh, sorry, he was a showman in a sense.
Corey hitting mics.
So you know, with Peter O'Toole being in this role, he kind of took that in and did his, you know, big character and larger than life kind of person. And
yeah,
I love it. Like every time I watch that film, it's just this like I'm wrapped in a blanket kind of feeling.
You know what's funny? You described that Mirage sequence, and not trying to make a tangent. I'll let you get back to it. Yeah. I'm not going to Kanye you the entire time, but the sequence you're telling me about the Mirage, I remember when I was a kid, and so I didn't watch Lawrence of Arabia until like a year ago, and I texted you. I was watching it.
Yeah.
Because you told me to watch it.
Did you like it?
Yeah, I loved it.
Yeah.
But I remember watching The Mummy, the remake with Brendan Fraser.
Yeah.
And I remember like the promo marketing for it. And then one of the promo marketing shots was literally Lawrence of Arabia Mirage shot, because that was such a big thing with one of the shots in The Mummy was Hamunaptra being a mirage city.
Yeah.
And I remember like just like how it was like this huge homage to like the horror classics, and it had this like really creepy violin thing. It would show like Bram Stoker's like Dracula and all the black and white like Mummy and like the Swamp Thing, and all of a sudden it would show Lawrence of Arabia. I was like, why the hell is Lawrence of Arabia in there? And I was just like, what? Like that must be a scary movie. I remember thinking that as a kid. Now I know why, because you know most of the film takes place in the desert, and then you know Lawrence of Arabia kind of again going off that same mantra, world beginner and show stopper. Where it was this big thing where like. And I think I always found, like I love, like I said before, films that revolutionize the language.
Yeah, so. And it definitely did. And some cool little fun facts that I've found out about it since knowing we were doing this episode and going back. Because when I was in high school, you know, I didn't know about, or even if it was around or big enough, IMDb and trivia and stuff like that. And so I went through the trivia section of Lawrence of Arabia. And I guess when they were scouting locations, David Leans came across, there's this big scene where they derail a train. right? Lawrence leads the army to derail this train and stop it. And there's this beautiful shot of the army following his shadow upon the tipped over train. And David Lean's actually found the wreckage of the train that T.E. Lawrence himself had turned over during World War I, and it's in pristine condition because it's in the desert, right? So there's no rust, anything like that, and you can still go see it, which is kind of cool.
That's neat.
There's this interview I was watching again with Spielberg where he's talking. He met David Leans. He's like, he's one of my only heroes that I've met that didn't disappoint, and like he's so intellectually beyond where I was filmmaking wise, but I could still connect with him on certain things. And he was asking him how he got these shots. When they're walking 3 miles into the distance, how would you get rid of the footsteps to do shot 2? And he went, my darling, there was no shot 2. Like that's, you just do it when you're out there. And so it's if you get a chance to go through the trivia section on there, it's phenomenal. It's just beyond cool.
It's always very interesting to go through IMDb, and just like we were talking before this, before recording about like clickbait on the internet.
Yeah.
And it's just like sometimes there's fun clickbait, and you're like, oh, I didn't know that.
I went through one today that were like, famous people and their famous parents at the same age. And I was there for like a half an hour looking at celebrities and their children at the same age. And I don't need to know that, but it's in my head now. I know exactly how Tom Hanks and his son look like at 23. So
in a similar way where it's like there's clickbait on the internet for like certain viral videos go viral, I think, just since we're talking about films, like we're all pretty aware of what Oscar bait is too.
Yeah.
And how like there's some films that like we know this is going to be the shot that's like going to get nominated for something, for the design or for the cinematography, for the acting, for the performance, for the directing, for the producing. So, what did you think was probably like the shot? Do you think it's the Mirage shot, or do you think is the shot that like this is the film that like
the Mirage shot? I mean, it's super cliche, but yeah, it's a beautiful shot, and it was revolutionary at the time.
Yeah, first of its time.
Having watched it recently again, the shot that stood out to me was the one where, like I mentioned before, they've just won the battle at that train. They've toppled it. Lawrence is walking across, and you get this wonderful shadow because he's in all these robes, right? Mm-hmm. And they're very fine robes. So the sun shines through them and it casts a shadow, but it's kind of, you can see through it a little bit. And these armies are following behind this shadow so perfectly. And it's to me, it was very beautiful. And for me, that was my favorite shot. If you get a chance to go look that up, please do so. It's wonderful. My favorite scene, though, that stood out to me as far as acting wise is he comes back from the desert for the first time, and he has one of the army people with him who's not part of the British army, and people are trying to stop him, and they're like, you can't bring him in there, and he's ignoring everyone. He's like, fuck off, I've been in the desert, I'm thirsty, I'm going to the bar, and he's ignoring everybody, and he gets to the bar and he goes, 2 of your lemonades please with ice, and people keep coming up to him trying to take the other guy. They're like, he can't be in here, and he like stops everybody. He's like, get your hands off him, we're having lemonade. And like it's a fantastic scene, and he tells the officers are like, what are you doing here? He's like, we've taken Aqaba, the city. And they're like, yeah, right. You couldn't have. And he goes, well, I've done it. And he goes, well, what about the people who were there? He goes, we've taken them prisoner. I've done it all. And they're like, holy shit. So they get him the lemonades with ice, and he gets to meet with the general. But there's just something about that scene of like seeing this guy who was in the British Army, very upper class, very, posh and correct, coming back and being like,
rugged,
I've seen some shit.
Yeah.
I did what you wanted me to do.
Destroyed.
I'm fucking T.E. Lawrence. Fuck off.
Got the foam at the
I am
mouth.
a golden god.
They're like, it's impossible.
I have ultimate weapon.
Yeah, exactly. There's that moment where he says it's impossible. He goes, how can you be sure? He's like, because I've done it. Like,
Bitch.
that scene's fantastic.
This is the beginning of Come At Me, Bro.
Yeah, it was the first Come At Me, Bro, for sure.
Wait.
So
Go ahead. Do your question.
Well, I was gonna transition to. So, would you say that it's more of the? It sounds like it's more of like the technical aspects of film. That's sort of
no, the story itself is phenomenal. I mean, Peter O'Toole brings life into this character, and for those of you who haven't seen it, in the very first scene, it's this guy, T.E. Lawrence, Peter O'Toole's character, gets on a motorcycle, and you see him riding down these streets, and he crashes and dies. That's the first minute and a half of the film. Which is a true story. He died in a motorcycle accident a couple years after he got back from World War I. And I mean, a couple years, it was much longer than that. I'm paraphrasing. But so right off the bat, he dies, and the rest of the movie is essentially a flashback of this man's life. And it's really interesting to see this great man who did so many things, but in the back of your mind the entire time, but he just dies in a car accident, like a motorcycle accident. It's so crazy that life is strange that way, I think, is one of the morals of the movie that I got from it is like, live in the moment. I mean, I talk about Tom all the time. Live in the moment, live in the now. Don't wait to do the things you love because you never know what could happen. I mean, here's this man who had one guy who had, turned the tides of an entire area during World War I, crashed his motorcycle one day. So it's phenomenally acted. The score is amazing. It's one of the few scores that I've downloaded and still have on my phone and listen to. And the technical aspects, absolutely. Yes.
So,
Nice.
Yes. That's the film that made me take film seriously for the first time.
Okay.
And my wife noticed because I didn't pass her notes. That's the moral of the story.
out of a knot to a Jumanji 2, Welcome to the Jungle. How angry would you be if they made a reboot?
If they made a reboot, I'd be furious.
Starring
You know where Jumanji, Welcome to the Jungle is at?
starring Sam Rockwell.
Dwayne The Rock Johnson.
God, are you saying Sam Rockwell because he's my favorite? No, Sam Rockwell could never play T. Lawrence.
Starring Thomas Middleditch.
Hollywood, never fucking touch this film. Don't do it. Please.
Don't you do it.
It's also one of those interesting films because it's not historically accurate. It's not. It's been proven. There's a lot of stuff that's Hollywood, very Hollywood about it. But at the time, there wasn't forums and blogs, and there weren't journalists being like,
There wasn't
"This isn't
IMDb.
accurate."
Yeah.
There wasn't Tom.
So
There was not old Grandpa Tom.
I don't think it would fly today either. Just the culture that we're in now. And we have Alec Guinness is in like brown face.
Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Yeah, exactly. He's playing an Arabic gentleman, and he's it's
So you want Ewan
definitely wouldn't
McGregor
fly.
to play it?
Exactly. I want Ewan McGregor in brown face is what I'm trying to say.
Got it. Because I'm keeping this in
So
mind
if
when
you
I
take
direct it.
anything from that,
So as far as one film goes, that's what got me to take it seriously. But the director that helped me understand film as a language, and I love that Tom uses that phrase all the time, film language, because I don't, and I'm trying to more.
He said it like 4 times. People keep count how many times we're going to use this.
So film language is a language of film. Is David Fincher, and it started with me seeing Fight Club for the first time, and when I moved to New York on my own, that was
Flight Club.
I know I said Fight Club.
first rule of Flight Club.
I somehow knew you were going to say that.
Is buckle your seatbelt. What's that?
I knew you were going to say that.
Fight Club?
No, David Fincher.
Oh, David Fincher. Yeah, I
Who,
have.
by the way,
we all
you
know
have
he
to
has to
blow.
blow.
I have
He has to blow
the
him.
biggest nerd on for David Fincher in the entire
Which
world.
it's so funny because that he just thinks everyone in the world is a perv.
Is a pervert. Yeah. That's
And so
his
the
whole
fact
thing.
that you have to blow him,
yeah,
and you have
he
a
gets
hard on
it.
for him.
He gets it. He
He's
knows.
gonna love it.
But
Speaking of
Fight-
which, he has a new show on
Mindhunters?
Netflix, which is
What-
fucking amazing.
I haven't seen it yet.
Time stamping.
I know.
It's been out forever, guys.
But so
We can take that back.
So it started with Fight Club. When I moved to New York, it was kind of this movie I had on repeat in my apartment all the time because I wasn't very happy out there. I'll be honest. I learned a lot about life. Was miserable the entire time. But it was this little piece of home I feel like I could keep going back to, and I knew it so well and I loved it so much. And the more I knew about it, like trivia wise, behind the scenes stuff, or little ways that with that movie, I mean, spoiler alert if you haven't seen it.
Fuck that. No spoilers.
Little ways that you would find that Fincher had put in clues about who's Tyler and whatever. Really fascinating. Like when the car overturns and Edward Norton character actually gets out on the driver's side, even though in the whole scene he was in the passenger seat. Stuff like that. It really inspired me to kind of look more into his stuff and really pay attention to these little kind of idiosyncrasies in film. So I credit him. I've seen most of his catalog. I'm still working through all of it, but to me, he's my top guy.
Yeah, I agree with that. I saw there was a video I watched where they were talking about David Fincher, and I think it was because of Mindhunters that has been out for such a long time, but they finally got to talking about it on YouTube.
Yeah, it's been out for years.
Years and years. But they were talking about how he uses the camera as sort of like a object.
Yeah.
Is that what you're mouthing at me?
I was like omniscient.
Yeah,
Well, yeah.
It's the
It kind of follows the character.
It's not just
like,
the
very
fourth wall.
closely.
Right.
It's a part
Yeah,
of
it's
the
not just
scene.
observing the scene. It's like
uses a lot of, and his big thing is he never uses. I think he only has 1 or 2 times per movie where he uses a handheld,
He
if ever.
hates handheld. And,
Yeah.
and he said it in interviews where he wants the camera to show the audience like what you're seeing is doomed to happen. It's not a perspective of somebody, it's the perspective of the world, and these people are doomed to live in it. And so that's why most of the shots are very
CGI shots and
and most of the shots are very not biased to a character. They're just like, this is what it is, this is what's taking place. He'll use it to like create dramatic tension and enrichen the film language.
Thank you. This is the last thing I'll say on it, and we'll move around the room here. There is I'll give a shout out to another YouTube channel here. Every Frame of Painting has a wonderful breakdown of a scene from the movie Seven. Seven. And if you look at the title, how it's written,
I know.
There's a scene in the chief's office where he uses the camera to tell who's in charge by where the camera's positioned and who it's showing at what angle. And it's broken down shot for shot, and it's fucking brilliant.
The fact that David Fincher usually only takes adapted screenplays, and most of those screenplays are all from books or they're huge dialogue parts, and he makes dialogue crazy interesting, is literally the telltale of a master at their work. And
I mean,
this is from the guy who did Alien 3, which was like, everyone's like, oh, it's the worst one, blah, 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 blah.
Chuck Palahniuk went on record to say that David Fincher made a better ending to Fight Club than he wrote. So that's pretty fucking cool.
Pretty awesome.
So those are my two. A little more about Corey.
Take it or leave it.
Lawrence of Arabia, David Fincher. Maybe David Fincher should remake Lawrence of Arabia. I don't know.
Be a fucked up version of
it would be great. Actually, you know what? I take back what I said, Tom. If they do it, it has to be Fincher. There we go.
No, I'm going to do it.
I'll go.
Joshua?
Yeah, Joshua. I don't have a story like that. I don't have this was the film that changed my. I don't have.
Your
that.
wife wasn't in your high school films like that?
No. Funny story. My wife is older than me. So me, when it comes to film is incredibly important to me. That's probably where my Nerd On started for this show was I wanted to talk about film.
Your raging Nerd On?
My raging, veiny Nerd On.
Because you do, I mean, you do sound for a living.
Yeah, I do post-production sound for film and TV, but what's funny is like when I was growing up, it's not funny.
It's quite sad, actually.
It's actually quite sad.
Have you seen the opening of Up? It's like that.
It's
like funny like Up.
No.
Sorry.
Not to get too personal on the show, but my childhood was pretty difficult, and so film for me was an escape. It really was, and so I watched a lot of movies when I was a kid, and we've mentioned some of them like Indian in a Cupboard, Sandlot, all those Disney white clamshell films. Yeah. I was born in the 80s, so
why is the clamshell white?
Oliver and Company.
I don't know. Yeah, Oliver and Company. You have Ghostbusters. You have Back to the Future. I'm a huge Back to the Future fan. Ghostbusters.
Shout out to Netta.
Yeah,
our friend Netta is obsessed with those movies.
Awesome. So I mean, there's a lot of films growing up. I mean, some big ones are like when I was in high school. I went to midnight showings of like
Back
Lord of
when
the
they were
Rings.
at midnight, as we discussed.
Lord of the Rings, the Harry Potter movies.
I always forget to talk about Lord of the Rings. God damn it!
Don't worry, I'll cover that.
Corey, there's not your time anymore.
I know. I took up a lot of time.
One of my favorite movies growing up, and I have several tattoos, but two of them are nerdy. One of them has to do with Harry Potter, and the other one has to do with Nightmare Before Christmas. And I have Jack Skellington tattooed on my shoulder, on my butt. Yes,
the shoulder of your butt.
Jack Skellington is crawling out of my. What's this?
It's Halloween. It's Halloween in there.
What's this?
It's Halloween.
Oh God.
So, but the fun story about Nightmare Before Christmas is that I was a really shy kid, and one of my friends talked me into doing a play and auditioning for a play. And I went to a really small high school, and the drama director, what he would do is he would turn films into plays.
Awesome.
And so Nightmare Before Christmas was his first venture into that, kind of. No, my first venture into that. So I did it.
It's a solid
And
one.
I auditioned, and it was my first role ever, if we're not counting second grade, when I was the angry clam.
That's well, I count that, Josh.
Okay. I was in The Nightmare Before Christmas. My character, is very small part, but it was the guy that had a machete out of his head and he
Yeah.
went, Bunny! That was me.
Bunny!
Bunny! So that was me. That started my acting. And
That's a good step in.
right?
Yeah.
So I love Nightmare Before Christmas, but my story for film really started when I started working. Yeah.
Fun fact about Night Before Christmas I just learned.
Yeah.
From Princess Bride, Prince Humperdinck is the voice of Jack Skellington.
Oh, man.
Just learned that.
And Danny Elfman is the
singing
song,
voice,
the singing
yeah.
voice of it.
But
Which is amazing because it's one thing to watch like a musical movie, and then sometimes you can notice the difference between the speaking voice and the singing voice. It's pretty phenomenal
You can't.
and what they sound like. My film became even more important to me when I started working at Hollywood Video.
shout out to Hollywood Video and Game Crazy.
Man, rest in peace. The first day that I started, there was this guy there. I don't remember his name, but I remember he was kind of a
Shout out
surfer.
to that guy.
Shout out to that guy. I just remember him. My first day, we're straightening the collection because every day when you're working at a video store, imagine having to reorganize your film collection every day.
Oh yeah.
And so
What?
we'd have to make it pretty every day. And so
Customers don't pay attention to stuff where they are on the
No.
shelves ever?
Yeah. So we had to
Interesting.
go through, and so and also there was always fun conversations while you're doing that. Like,
Of course.
a game we used to play was read movie titles, but if they were porn films, I
always
won.
like that.
I won, and the film was Exit Wounds.
Jesus. Fuck, man.
That's where Jack Skellington came
You
from.
didn't even start us off with like a for example. You just went straight to exit wounds.
Okay,
My God.
sorry. So
That's like taking out someone diving for the first time. You're like, we're going to start at 2 meters. Like, that's where we're going to do 20 meters, 2,000 leagues. That's where we're going to start at.
no, I
Damn.
went there.
Exit wounds. All right.
So, no, he would ask me, hey, have you seen this? Like, no, I haven't. Cool, you're renting it tonight. So I would do that. First one he ever asked me was, hey, have you
Exit
seen
wounds.
Evil Dead?
Sorry. Jesus Christ.
Have you seen Evil Dead? And I was like, no, I haven't. So I rented. He was like, okay, well, you're getting Evil Dead, you're getting Evil Dead 2, and you're getting Army of Darkness. And you're going to watch
Yeah.
them, and we'll work tomorrow, and we'll talk
Boomstick.
about them. And so I did that. And then it just continued. Hey, have you seen this? No, I haven't. And so that is where my attitude about films kind of comes from, is it's like, hey, have you seen this? No, I haven't, but I'll try it. And so it's
Try anything.
It was almost like a buffet for you.
Yeah, and so
It was just like,
exactly.
hey, try
yeah.
this. Hey, try this. Hey, try this. It was almost like my 21st birthday when like I was getting shots just given to me like before I turned
yeah.
21. It's like, hey,
Have you
try
tried this?
It
Have
was-
you tried this?
It's like a rap song. Your kids might know. It's like, hey,
except
bitch,
you don't
try
throw
this.
up at the end.
No,
So that's the
melon
nice part.
flavored vodka. Just that gets me right here if I ever think about my 20
Vodka?
first birth-
I can't drink vodka.
Melon flavored vodka.
Whoa.
It gives me like just
My buddy made me drinks with marshmallow.
Tastes like
vodka.
blackout.
Yeah.
Tastes like blackout.
Tastes like bad
regrets.
dreams.
Sweet, sweet taste of black.
All the regrets I've
This
had.
tastes like regrets.
Tastes like burning. So yeah, it really started there. And like Hollywood Video, I met so many really amazing people that were like, oh, hey, have you seen this? And I'm always one of those people that's like, hey, have you seen that? No, I haven't, but I'll try it. Why not? I'll watch it. And if it's bad, okay, whatever. I watched it, it entertained me. Great. All right. And so, some of my favorites, I love The Big Lebowski. That's
Yeah.
if I had to select a favorite film,
Wow.
that's the thing. It's hard for me to select a favorite film, but if I
you
had to,
gun against your head.
probably The Big Lebowski is probably my
Dude
favorite.
abides.
That's
The
a
Dude
great
does
choice,
Dude
yeah.
abide.
abides.
And it's
Fucking
something that
Coen
I
brothers.
try to,
Roger Deakins.
Why is it your favorite?
it's wow, god damn.
Gun to your head. Gun to your head.
Just a feeling.
It's just I feel it in my stomach. No,
Is it the White Russians he makes?
I
it's
do
where he
like a
discovered
White
White
Russian.
Russians.
Yeah,
You mean just
for-
vodka milk? Jesus, no clue at all.
the humor of it, the dialogue makes me laugh every time, even though I've heard fucking Donnie.
Can't go wrong with
even
Goodman.
though I have heard it so many times, the way the actors are.
Shout out to Goodman.
It's
Shout out
this.
to Goodman.
It's almost like an anti-hero.
Yeah. Oh, it is. Absolutely.
It is. It's an anti-hero, and I just love that he is just so the dude is such an anti-hero, and I have tried to
What does
be
he
the
say
dude.
when they like are putting him in the toilet and he's like, I don't know, let me. What does he say? I think it's down there. Let me check again or something like that.
Yeah, his
Gets
his,
me every
his
time.
snarkiness. Obviously, you're not a golfer. Like it's just
Yeah.
like this the back and
He
forth and
pulled
just
the room together, man.
yeah. And so I mean that's why I have a rug in my recording
Oh my
studio.
god, that's why this is here.
because it really pulls the room
It
together.
does really pull the room together.
Right?
If someone took this rug, I'd be mad.
Yeah,
For
I
you.
would be pissed. I
It's
would
a good prank,
I would
guys.
go.
April Fools. Watch out.
So I love that film. It's one of those even just the
I'll be Donnie.
yeah.
Yeah.
Fucking Donnie. So yeah, the dude is just one of those characters that I want to emulate. I want to be the dude.
Everyone. I mean, yeah. And
Everybody-
that was all his real clothes, right? The jellies and everything
Yeah.
were
yeah.
his.
He does something really, really cool. Jeff Bridges, every film that he does, he creates a photo album.
Yeah,
where
he has a book.
and
Yeah.
it's
I want that
cool.
book
they're
so bad.
beautiful pictures.
Anybody
Oh, wow.
listening wants to buy me the book, go ahead.
Didn't even know
Feel
that.
free.
Yeah. So, another big thing from my childhood, Monty Python. I was introduced to Monty Python when I probably shouldn't have been.
Oh, sure.
And
Which
like,
one did you see first?
The Meaning of Life.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
yeah.
That's
Mine
the one I've
was
watched.
Holy Grail.
Okay. I
Mine was
mean,
Holy
but
Grail.
that's everybody's first, like
Yeah.
Monty Python. But I saw Meaning of Life and I was hooked. I was like,
Yeah.
and then we just kept watching it. And so that's why my humor is a little kind of off. And yeah, I mean, I love British humor. I think they're actually funnier than Americans.
Do you have a favorite Python?
A favorite Python?
Mm-hmm.
The red one. The red ones that constrict really.
The boa
really
constrictor?
good.
Python? Thank you.
Probably John Cleese, and I'll say why. He's the straight man of the group. His humor is he's kind of the guy that's stuck in this weird situation, and he goes with it.
Yeah.
But because he is that with all these insane characters around him, it just makes it so funny when he has his one-liners, and you're like, oh my god.
That's
I've
go ahead.
told Corey ever since I watched. So the first one, Monty Python I've seen was Meaning of Life. I watched it for film school,
Yeah.
and I told Corey that John Cleese would be my pick for Alfred.
Yeah.
Oh
Batman.
yeah.
Yeah, he said that a lot.
Interesting.
He would be my pick.
I like how you said that he's a straight man because he really is. I mean, even the scenes like the silly walk.
And they knew that about him. Like when I've watched a few documentaries on the creation
Yeah.
of that group, and they knew that about him, and they thought it was fucking hilarious. They were like, we need to have him in our group.
Yeah.
We need to do this. And
But
it's-
even in the silly walk where he's walking around like crazy, he's not the
still-
odd man because
Yeah.
the guy doing the not so funny walks, Palin,
Yeah.
is the odd man in that
Yeah.
sketch. And he's the straight man. He goes, no, you're not getting it. The silly walks is like,
Yeah.
it's wonderful. I never really put two and two together like that. That's really great. Yeah.
And I mean, I love the parrot sketch. It's one of my favorite things.
I did that
ever.
in high school.
I did too. When I went to Cal Arts for an acting program,
And the
they had a
argument
talent
sketch.
show. Yeah.
Yeah, Ollie, you remember when we didn't do that in
You
high
guys
school?
remember when you
Yeah.
guys went to theater school?
Yeah.
College, man.
No.
Yeah, man,
No.
those books.
Books, dorms.
Tuition.
Oh man, it's bad times.
Just-
I did theater in college.
God damn it.
Ooh.
I was the only one that
When
didn't
did
do
you
theater.
I was prop master for a play.
Yes.
Nice.
Yeah.
Solid.
Not one acting
Backstage. People don't give credit to
okay, Tom.
backstage.
It was Much Ado About
I still
Nothing.
love you.
Ooh,
It was an adaptation though. It was set in like 60s Omaha.
bone. I did a little bit of
Not
Shakespeare.
kidding.
I love that. Okay. So yeah, it's when I think of movies that have shaped my childhood, and I think Monty Python, now that I think about it, it really was something that helped me because I did have a difficult childhood. And so when difficult things happen to me, make it funny.
Yeah.
Just make it fucking
Were you
funny.
a fan of Time Bandits as well? No, not as much.
There's a lot of hand gestures.
That's
for
okay.
you
Not
listeners
as
at home.
much.
That's okay.
Or not at home.
Return the map. That's all I remember from that.
I mean, it's just when I think of those movies, I just think of one-liners that I'm just like, oh my god.
Gilliam's a little more abstract than.
Well, I mean, you
Python
have
was as a
Brazil.
group. Yeah.
I mean, you watch Brazil and you're like, oh fuck.
I got a question for you.
Yeah.
Not for you, Corey.
Oh.
Fuck off,
Sound
Corey.
designer, sound engineer.
Yeah.
What do you
How
think?
did that-
What film do you think has the best of that?
Exit wounds.
I want to get your professional opinion on this.
My professional opinion.
Yeah.
It's interesting.
Once
Or at
you
least,
say
is there one
prestige.
that kind of pushed you towards it?
Oh, that pushed me towards So post-production audio kind of fell in my lap in a weird way, sort of. I wanted to be a musician. No, I'm going to get there. I'm going to fall down the rabbit hole for a second, but that was one thing I always recognized about films that was just so good. When I think I don't really have a favorite, like, ooh, the sound is so good. I can appreciate creative choices. Like, I know they fucking suck, but Transformers, some of their that actually revolutionized some sound design nowadays as we know it. Just as kind of like some of the sounds that they used. I like when somebody uses sound and music together, and that's what like for the film that I'm working on with you, it's like I'm trying to figure out while I'm watching it, how can I work with the music? And that when I'm working with a director, I'm always like, I need the score.
He says you as in me, Tom.
Sorry. Tom and Corey
and
did a film together because
Tom's film.
Corey doesn't do film without Tom.
I do Tom films.
And I'm doing the post-production sound, but that's
to clarify. Tom's film. I was just.
Oh my God.
I just acted in it.
I swear to God,
it's very important. I think that's really important.
So I appreciate. It's hard for me to pinpoint like it's that film.
I forget what documentary I was watching, and maybe this is attributing to why you can't pinpoint one. And it was someone in sound. It was some behind the scenes thing, and they're like, if you're doing it right, no one will notice.
Yeah.
So I think there's something to that you can't pinpoint what it was. But if you're doing it right, you shouldn't, if you're telling the story right, all aspects of the movie, you shouldn't notice something like that.
I'll give the counter because I think it's both. You have to be able to appreciate both. Kind of like you have to be able to appreciate the bitter and the sweet. Like, so when like some people say like the invisible cut is the best versus like the cut you see. So like the invisible cut where you don't see things happening, maybe like the beautiful like jump cut from like a match going out to a sunrise, or to like a Hitchcock where the sound is actually cutting off the cuts where the knife is hitting the woman's back, where it's actually the sound is cutting you as the audience versus the cuts itself. So it's like there's very intentional things there. It's not like it's invisible where it's like it's very smooth. You see the blood and guts where it's like, oh God, it's like giving me almost a seizure at this point.
I get what you mean.
So I mean,
there's a little in between. Yeah,
it's both.
I get what they're saying, and I thought that was very, very.
I mean, that's what I was taught.
I agree with your argument as well, Tom.
That's what I was taught in audio school is that if you're doing your job right, you don't hear anything.
Yeah.
It's the world.
Yeah, right.
It's the soundscape.
I think that's what I meant
it is and so, I mean, there are creative decisions one decision I always will love is, and I don't know if this film is the first one to do it, but I know that it started it kind of. Anyway, I'm fucking rambling. Saving Private Ryan, the shell shock.
And
everything is filtered. All the high ends are filtered, but the frequency, like if you get hit in the head, like there's this high frequency that's going through it, and it fucking gives me a nerd on every time I see it. I just like see it and hear it.
That whole movie does. I mean, it's a phenomenal film.
It's a great film, but they've done it in other films, and I'm like, hey, kudos, awesome. I really fucking love that.
It's about Private Ryan.
Yeah,
cool.
Hey, and I'm pretty sure that I can't think of a film that did it before it. And when I ever think of like the shell shock sound, I'm like, oh yeah, Saving Private Ryan.
Yeah.
It's kind of like
the porn version.
Yeah.
Saving Ryan's Privates.
Well, it's about pulling you into that experience and like the whole argument of like you shouldn't notice it if it's done correctly. I think you do notice it, but you can't point it. You can't point at it, right? It becomes like greater than like the sum of its parts or whatever the thing where it's it's the whole experience. You're just like in there.
Wonder Woman did that shell shock. I just got to do the comic book thing one more time. You know what I'm saying?
Actually, one thing I will say is that what I do notice when I'm watching films is when they creatively use 5.1. Oh. And you're watching a film and you're like, oh, fuck, that came out from the rear right. Oh, that's a really interesting choice to do. Oh, that's so cool. Like, it's like, oh, that... I wonder how they fucking... Oh, okay, they did... Yeah. And I get all technical because I always say, like, and I've said it on previous episodes, it fucking sucks to watch a film with me and my wife. Because, we'll be like going, that's going to happen. But I'll be like, oh, fuck, so he probably did automation and he probably did a filter like that.
You just remove the magic from it completely, Josh. Oh, my God.
He's probably using this plugin that does the. Oh my god, it's so cool! I'm gonna try that. Stop it!
What did you think of?
You mean he has shell shock?
There's a couple movies that I saw recently in the last few years that I think were just blew my mind as far as audio goes.
Dunkirk.
I actually haven't seen Dunkirk.
That
I need to.
as far as sound
did,
goes,
yeah, it
as a
did.
driving force in a film in recent years, that's probably like one
For
that stands
me,
out to me.
one of them was
the
Tron
most.
Legacy, and then Godzilla. Believe it or not, like the
It
newer
had cool sound. Yeah.
yeah.
Bryan Cranston dies in the first 10 minutes. Yeah.
Yeah, that was great. False.
But no,
marketing.
I like the movie.
I think they both had like incredible sound design, and Tron specifically has like good sound that sort of like melds in with the music, and you can't really tell them apart. And
Tron Legacy
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
one of
Daft
those
Punk, baby.
surprise movies for me that I didn't think I was going to like going into.
yeah,
Yeah.
Like a buddy of mine recommended it. It's one of his favorites. But he was like, check it out. And I was like, all right. And by the end of it, I was like, fuck, that was amazing. Why aren't they making another one of these?
Yeah.
yeah,
I'm so sad that they aren't.
yeah.
So that ends my thing about films.
I guess I can lead that right into mine. So for me, it's Lord of the Rings.
Yes.
It's
so mad.
Lord of the Rings is such a
Original trilogy, right?
Yeah.
original. God damn you!
Wait, we have to ask.
We don't talk about The Hobbit. It's
hey.
not even called Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
We
It's
talked
just
about
The
the
Hobbit.
third
I'll say this.
Spider-Man
I'll
movie.
say
We
this.
got to
My
talk
answer-
about Hobbit.
That's just called The Hobbit, not Lord of the Rings.
If you haven't seen The Hobbit out there,
You're lucky.
my answer is Lord of the Rings, and I have not seen the third Hobbit movie.
Me neither have I.
Okay, I
So
heard
that
the
should
third
tell you-
Hobbit movie is really good.
Yeah, but the
But
other
the first two were whatever.
If it was two movies,
It's not the same thing.
would have been great.
Now I don't know if this is because of the reason it's my answer. I think it was just a point in my life where I was like 15 or however old I was when those
15.
movies started
Weird
coming
time
out.
for all
Ali,
of
it
us.
was not because
Yeah.
of that. I watched those films. I watch them every year, but specifically, I start January 1st off with watching one of the Lord of the Rings films
Yeah,
in subsequent order. So last year, I watched Two Towers, meaning I'm watching Return of the King this
That's
January
interesting.
1st. Yeah.
but
I like to start my year good.
the movie's phenomenal. Me and a buddy of mine started a forum. We ran a forum for it for a while. But it goes beyond that. And I don't think that was until I got like the extended cuts on DVD, and it wasn't even like the movies. Of
Turned the
course,
4-hour-long movie to a 6-hour-long movie.
Yeah,
No,
exactly.
no. They're 4.5 each.
They're 4.5 or something like that. But it wasn't even that. Like that is on its own level. But this is like the reason for this answer is like transcends that, and that's me watching the behind the scenes, the like 8-hour long like behind the scenes footage.
48 hours now. It's 24.
My
It's
God.
24 though. It is 24 hours.
It's like something crazy. But
It's a
I have
Thanksgiving
seen
marathon
that.
we watch.
I've seen that like multiple times. And when I used to live in Nebraska and I had nothing better to do, our house had like when we bought our house, it had a theater built into its basement.
Oh my god.
Yeah. So
Why'd you
nice.
move?
and it had what's that?
Why'd you move?
I don't know. I
Because what do people do in Nebraska?
hey,
If you have
I
a
love
theater in
Nebraska.
your basement, you watch fucking movies.
Yeah.
Josh,
Die in
all
your
day.
theater.
You
I would
die
happily-
happy. That's what you do.
With what LA has given me, I would happily move to Nebraska on a moment's notice.
Yeah, I think they have Google Fiber too. So
they
that's
probably
pretty
do.
cool.
Yeah. We should just go.
Yeah.
Can I Skype in from now on from Nebraska?
Sure.
That
No,
10
but it was-
gigabyte per second internet. I think you do
my
just fine.
goodness. Yeah, I'll give you like a 4K like video conference. You won't even know I'm gone.
It's a 3D interactive video of Ali in his pajamas. We all have Oculus Rifts on to watch him. It's like
That would be
Google Fiber
incredible.
life.
Yeah, but it was watching those behind the scenes and really starting to discover like what it takes to put a movie like that together, like
Well,
the
just the magic
story.
that went into it too, right?
Yeah, and it for the first time I began to appreciate what it takes to build a universe. Like even though it's not Peter Jackson's original work or whatever.
Down to the languages.
Yeah, they had to like
Yeah.
make
Just-
languages, like the design of like the weapons and the architecture was specific to each race. But the thing
Viggo
that
Mortensen not showering at all.
Breaking
Yeah.
his toe
breaking his toe on the
and
kick.
making it into the cut.
Yeah, I love, and like that whole watching that whole experience, them building Hobbiton, and why did I say Hobbiton?
Hobbiton.
I like saying words.
Hobbiton.
Hobbiton.
I like saying
It's Transformer, right?
Yeah. Megatron, Hobbiton.
Avador.
I like I like misspeaking Journey on purpose.
Yeah.
Just
I
to
like
trigger
that.
people.
My wife makes fun of me because I say Devonshire instead of Devonshire, the word, because it has Shire in it, and I'll never say it any other way.
Like Wilshire.
and
The
Wilshire.
lost land of Devonshire.
Anytime I go to the
corner-
Wilshire, I go, we're going to Wilshire today.
Yeah.
You will
because
see a
if I have
glorious
any
7-Eleven.
opportunity to say Shire, I'm taking it, Josh.
No, I do the same thing.
I know. I'm
You're just
defensive
gonna-
about it.
You're going to say Josh.
I'm really saying my wife's name in my head because she gives me shit
Shout
about
out
it.
to his wife.
Shout out Dana. And I could honestly I could go on for this for like
24 hours.
200 hours.
We're gonna
should
do an episode.
yeah,
Yeah.
But
God,
but to-
idiosyncrasy
but to try to-
stereo right
in
there.
5.1 Dolby Surround.
We're
Our
gonna do
powers
an episode.
combined.
But the real like those aren't even the reasons like that I just stated that why it made me want to become. Eventually, I'd like to do film stuff. At the time, it wanted me to become
Talk
a
to me.
filmmaker.
Talk nerdy
Like,
to me, baby.
I wanted to be a director, like because of this, and from that has come like I want to be a storyteller and a universe like creator, which I've kind of done a little bit of already. And it was when they were talking about building. I think it was like towards the end of the first movie where they're fighting the orcs or the Uruk-hai or something on that hill.
Yeah.
And
You mean Lurtz, the Uruk-hai who kills Boromir?
Sean Bean?
Sean Bean,
Sean
the walking
Bean.
spoiler
Sean Bean,
alert?
the guy that dies.
the walking.
I was just going to say that.
Oh, God.
But I think the
we just become best
hobbits
friends?
or Frodo,
Ollie, I won't interrupt you.
they
Go ahead.
I think I'm pretty sure this happens. I have to go back and like look and
I
see
can
if it
tell
was
you.
this specific scene, but it was. I think the hobbits like either climb on top of or go behind some like giant head that's just like there in the ground.
Yeah.
And it's like that's a ruined statue.
Yeah.
Like I'm watching this movie that took place in the whatever like 1100s quote unquote Middle Earth.
Yeah,
But
right.
there's a layer underneath that is a civilization that goes before that even like a whole bunch of stories and a whole bunch of universe and sets of characters that probably existed and tells you the story of why the statue is now on its face.
Oh, yeah.
And just
Guaranteed.
the depth
Yeah.
you don't have to explain what that statue is. You don't have to explain like anything about
It's
it.
kind of like what you liked a lot about the Blackout in 2049.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like
Not knowing.
There's things in this world that you just have to accept.
It makes you feel like it's a lived in universe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that like right there, I was like, that just fascinated me beyond like
rich.
to no end.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
the-
And I was like, wow, like if I ever create a universe or a world, it's gonna have like
years and years.
so much depth
Well,
and like
it's kind of like
I'll
that.
probably never bring up
Like
to
hundreds
the
of years
surface,
that happened
Yeah,
but
before the
it'll
story even started.
it'll be there
It's
for those who
one
want
of
to
the points you
notice
brought
it.
up that made Blade Runner so good is like showing a well-lived world. Like show that little bit of
Yeah.
extra. Like they could have made that a fucking tree or a log and saved on production budget, but it was important that that was there.
Yeah,
To
and
immerse you.
maybe because it was like an adaptation of a book, but it was just like all the little things like the wood elves and wanting to learn more about them and that
You
this
wanted
Why
to
we
know
got the
more
4.5
about-
hour versions.
and yeah, which is why I like the 4.5 hour versions makes the Twin Tower my favorite one of the three
Me
movies.
too.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because and the reason is funny enough is because just the characters of Boromir and Faramir and their father, which is like not what I've been talking about for the past 10 minutes or whatever.
Yeah. But that like
that just
side
shows you
storyline that becomes so important.
Why the movie's so incredible is because it has that like that spectrum of
Yeah.
having these grand, scale things and bringing you back down to,
The human condition.
the human. Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was my turning point.
There's one scene in there, and maybe you agree with me, that I'm so sad didn't make it into theatrical cut, and it's the mouth of Sauron. It's very
yeah.
Guillermo del Toro, but
Yes.
I fucking love that scene.
Yeah.
So he's got an eye.
The
He's
mouth
got a
of
mouth.
Sauron.
And how many other parts of his body?
Well, no,
are
this
like-
is just the one. It's just the mouth, but it's. Have you guys seen that scene with the mouth of Sauron?
No.
It's
You said it
they
didn't make it
digitally
in there.
altered his mouth to be like huge,
to be
and
larger,
it's
yeah.
very like I say Guillermo del Toro, and I think that's pretty spot on with
Yeah.
how it looks.
Wait. No. Yes, I have.
If you
seen it.
haven't checked it out, those of you listening, go look it up because it's a great scene, and I'm sad that they cut that, but I get it. I get it.
Yeah. Two Towers has a lot of
Google
different
search
things
now?
that when the Lord of the Rings episode happens, it's like I think this conversation is going to be around Two Towers for most of it
The nerd on I'm gonna have for that. We're gonna have to have a break
because I just remembered all of the stuff with
We're gonna have an intermission.
with the city.
Are you talking with Gondor, the White City, or Rohan?
No, Rohan.
Yeah,
Like
Rohan.
Rohan in itself
And King
is just
Theoden.
like
You get this out
The
of
music all of a
music-
sudden became like
Yeah.
a
yeah. But anyways,
The Mad King and Grima Wormtongue, and I told you to take his staff. Fucking love that scene. Sorry.
yeah. Told you to take the wizard's stuff.
He's oozing.
crying.
He's oozing.
But to quickly give you my favorite, one of my favorite directors right now that is a big influence, storytelling wise, it's Christopher Nolan.
Yeah.
And for me, I don't know if that's a
Wore the brown
agreement
pants
or
today.
Did he direct
And the white fronts.
Exit Wounds? Or
yeah.
Christ.
And really, it's more about his the way he's able to just carry the flow of a movie through
yeah.
without interruption, and just the way he can tell a story so like almost effortlessly, and have you stay interested in the pacing of everything like that. So like structure wise, I'm a huge fan of what Nolan's able to do.
Oh yeah. Absolutely. I think
Namely from The Dark Knight. Dark Knight, if I could go back in time, and he said, Ollie, you can go back and have one of your theatrical experiences again
Oh wow.
from scratch.
Yeah.
It was seeing The Dark Knight for the first time. Like that movie,
Never
like,
forget your first time.
Oh wow.
it's not, I wouldn't say it's my favorite movie, but it was my favorite like theatrical experience of watching a
It's
movie.
funny you say that because I always the most vivid theatrical memory I have is actually Fellowship.
Fellowship.
I saw it with
funny.
my dad, and I got home, and little known me, did he know I would love it because he grew up reading them, right, and watching
Yeah.
the cartoons. I got home, talked about it with him the entire way there, and he had the books waiting for me on the table.
Oh
when we
yeah.
walked through the
That's
door.
awesome.
So
And
it
you
was
just
really
ate those
cool.
up, I'm sure.
Yeah. Oh
Yeah.
fuck yeah.
I ended up watching The Dark Knight 5 times in the same day in theaters because everyone knew I was a Batman fan. Yeah.
I was literally
it
on
was
the
rough.
edge of my seat for parts of it.
Yeah.
Like literally, like I've like you say that's a saying, but I was like actually on the edge of my seat.
People. So the thing is, like, the reason why I watched it 5 times in the theaters because like so many people knew I was into Batman. They was like, I want to watch Batman with you. And I was like, cool.
You're like,
So
cool,
like,
cool,
literally, I watched it the night before on Friday, and on Saturday, starting from 9 a.m. till 9 p.m. I was in a fucking
You had a
movie
schedule?
theater. And people were like, "Oh, I want to watch it at the 10 o'clock show. I want to watch it at the 1 o'clock show. I want to watch it at the 3 o'clock show." I was like, "Oh my god!" And like, I loved it. But I remember it just like you were saying, people came, like my friends were next to me, were like, "Is this like how it is the entire movie? Like, the entire movie, baby."
Yeah.
The reason it's
Buckle
on
your
everyone's
seats,
top
baby.
list is the greatest superhero movie of all time.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And it's the movie that changed the way I view casting.
It's just a good film.
because I was on that hate train against Heath Ledger when they were like Heath Ledger's Joker. I was like, yeah, right.
His,
from fucking Knight's Tale,
Yeah.
please.
Yeah.
The interrogation scene is like just I can't even like words.
Oh my god, yeah.
Like just him punching him over and over again and him like laughing, being like, you have no
And I give credit to
Nothing
Christian
to
Bale
do with
as
all
well.
your
you have
strength.
nothing to do with all your strength.
Christian
I was
Bale
like, oh
knowing
my god.
giving Heath the room to, conduct that scene as well is a huge thing to do as an actor. Not wanting to be like, what about my stuff? He was like, no, it's this guy's fucking scene. I'm gonna play to it.
A really beautiful thing that Nolan talked about was the shooting, how he shot the Joker in most of the shots, because you have to have like, I can't even see it sometimes. It's like the Joker will bob in and out and he'll go in from hard focus to soft focus, hard focus to soft focus, not out of focus, soft focus.
Yeah.
Which is like such a minuscule detail, but just knowing that that's actually the train of thought the Joker has where he's in hard focus and soft focus, like as that plays
Yeah.
in the story, it's like, oh.
So Nolan, that's a good transition. I think
Can I just-
Christopher Nolan to,
I just,
to Tom's. Yeah.
No, we're cutting the episode short, no Tom.
No, fuck Tom.
Yeah, nerd on.
I just thought, and as always, when you were saying your first like vivid memory of going to, I just had this funny thought of my first memory. Like when people are like, "What's your oldest memory?" My oldest memory of going to a film is fucking Titanic. The reason why it stood in my mind is because we sat at the front, the very front.
Like
So
the
you're
front of the
watching.
ship?
So you're watching Titanic. People
Way
can't fucking
above
see
you.
this, and
Looking
it's way
up.
above you, and you're looking up. I just think because it was really stupid.
Oh,
But
because
anyway,
boobs?
So her nipples were
Boobs.
like 10 feet.
10 feet. Yeah,
In front of you?
I don't know. Stupid story. Long, boring story. Skip to Tom.
This giant boob. Oh,
Anyway,
Tom.
Christopher Nolan.
No. So we're talking about film. We're talking about the films that got us into film and yada yada, all the things that gave us
a nerd on for film.
nerd on, and all that stuff. So growing up with my terminal illness, being Asian. Okay. Every time. I just love saying it. My parents, ever since I was like maybe 5 years old, they asked me what I want to be when I grow up. And it was, like kind of like Josh was saying, like it's, it's like not easy growing up. I think all of us could say it wasn't easy growing up. We all had like our struggles, not to demean anyone's specific struggles, but the huge stereotype is like your parents are very career focused for your life. And my parents, not different from that. And every year they would ask me on my birthday, like not even a cake. He's like, what cake do you want? Like, what career do you want? I'm like, my God, like I just want to play with toys, like watch Beast Wars and, fuck off.
Maximize.
Yeah. And every year until I was about maybe like 9 years old, I would say, I don't know. And I had an older sister growing up and my parents would say, why don't you be like her? She knows what she wants. And I was like, I don't know what to tell you.
So much pressure.
Yeah. And what I did know at the time was I loved watching movies. And so like I've said before, like the VCR was almost like a third parent to me. And watching like the original VHS Star Wars, watching like my parents had this huge video collection of like all these Arnold Schwarzenegger movies and Stallone movies. I grew up watching all these like action
Stop or
movies.
My Mom Will Shoot.
Yeah. And watching like
Classic Stallone.
Watching a lot of like Disney movies and everything like that. So I've watched a crap ton of movies, but the one movie that I watched over and over and over again as a kid was actually The Mask.
Oh my God, The Mask!
The Mask.
The Mask.
With Jim Carrey. And I don't know why that movie stuck out to me. New Line Cinema.
Get out of it, kid. You bother me.
Yeah. And I remember watching movies that were coming out at that time would have trailers of that movie. And I was just like, oh, cool. And like, I felt it was very popular. And I was watching it and I was like, I don't know, maybe it was kind of the whole thing of like, stupid, weak Stanley Ipkiss, like becoming this cool mask dude by night. And then Cameron Diaz's first movie thing. And I was like, damn, she's hot, baby.
So pretty.
My first lady crush, I probably.
Yeah.
There's a lot of jokes in that went over my head that I didn't realize till like recent years when I've watched it. Like when he's doing the
balloons and he brings out a condom.
And it's a condom.
Yeah.
No idea when I was growing up. I was like, the balloon didn't work.
Yeah.
How stupid I was. What an idiot.
So
my childhood
watching that movie over and over again, I was able to end up memorizing. I've forgotten it now. I've memorized every single line watching it because I just watched it so much, repetition. And one year, like I was like probably 9 years old. My parents like, what do you want to be? It's like, I want to be. And I was looking up. I was at the time when the internet was like super slow. I looked at like what's the top grossing like careers you can have, and it's like entertainment is the highest one next to sports. And so I was like, I want to be a movie director. I'm like, I want to make stories like this, and like I want to I want to be able to do this with someone else. Like and this is a 9-year-old Tom who's like, I want to be able to have a kid watch a movie over and over again where they memorize it. And growing up,
that's pretty cool.
And growing up, just like watching more movies and kind of being like Josh, where it's like I'd watch every movie. I didn't care because it was like more movies, the better. I could learn more from it. I could learn what's bad. Yeah. And what's good.
Why I can do tax write-offs for my movie tickets.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
snaps to that.
And then, it wasn't until around when I was 15. I was a junior in high school. And my sister brought home a DVD, and it was The Prestige. And The Prestige, if you guys know me, would then become my favorite movie of all time. It still is.
Yep.
Directed by Christopher Nolan, Christian Bale, Hugh Jackman, Scarlett Johansson, Michael Caine, Andy Serkis, David Bowie. And it's a movie about two rivaling magicians in a world where there's
two midgets. Is that
magicians?
What I heard, I was
magicians.
Like, wow,
story about two rival midgets.
Jesus, little
you can't
people.
say that.
You said it. I never said it. No. Two rivaling magicians. It was a movie that took place after the Batman Begins. And so for me as a young, dumb kid, I was like, ooh, it's Batman versus Wolverine, right? But I loved that movie. And that was actually a movie that I ended up watching every single day for a month.
Wow.
I would get home.
That's my Fight Club.
I would go home, pop it into the PS2, watch it, and
study that.
And
shit.
then after that, I would start my homework. Like the day wouldn't start until that I watched that movie. And until that, even till now, like I watch it at least like maybe like once every 2 months, just to like rekindle like the fire. Like I was like, like the way that Wally Pfister, really controls the camera and like has these really grandeur shots. And that's not Nolan's director of photography anymore, but kind of like to Ollie's point, like Christopher Nolan, he's able to play with timelines, but he's able to so we're talking about film language. And to me, I think the big thing is the command of the language. When you write words and sentences and paragraphs, like the way you command your words shows how well you know the language. And the way that he's able to just kind of like pop you into different parts of timelines. And the fact is that there's 3 timelines happening at once is amazing. And the fact that you're always interested to find out what's happening to the next part. It's like the best part of what a TV show offers, because a TV show knows how to keep you on edge, and you hate it when a commercial comes up.
Yeah.
But then in Christopher Nolan, you hate it when it jumps to another time. You're like, God damn it, I wanted to see what happens next. But what you find out is that
like
keeps you engaged.
just cliffhanger after cliffhanger.
yeah, and what you find out is that the new timeline that you're on engages with the last timeline you were just at.
It's relevant to that.
Yeah, so
and it keeps you going with like the camera motions and the score, like that stuff it stays as if it's the same scene, but it's
and
not.
the interesting thing about the movie is it gives you the answer in the first scene.
Yeah.
Gives you the answer at the very beginning.
And the thing I love about like Nolan, I think as an auteur, like he really tries to focus on like we are in the world that we create. And so The Prestige is a lot about like creating magic and creating like your own destiny, because, spoilers, like Alfred Borden lives half a life. And he shares a life with his twin brother, which is never named. It's just named Fallon. But then Hugh Jackman kind of creates his own nightmare because he's traveling the world and spending all this money and pretty much pushing everyone that's ever loved and cared about him in order to exact revenge. And in the whole thing, it's like magic is fake. There's always an ingénieur. That's what they called it, an ingénieur, but that would create the illusion for you. But then at the very end, it was more like they found true magic, something that couldn't be explained, which is just science. Because Nikola Tesla just like, yo, bro, I'll make you a clone machine. It's cool.
It's all good. But it might be you.
Yeah, and the thing is like he created that in there. And in all his films, I think
His breath.
follows the
It might
same.
be you every night.
follows the same like through line. But my favorite line in that film, or favorite I have 2 favorite parts in that movie. And the first part is when Christian Bale and Hugh Jackman's characters are still like working together, and they're trying to figure out this Chinese dude's like magic illusion. Like, how does he get this fishbowl out of like to appear?
Yeah.
And Hugh Jackman can't get it because he's a great showman, but Christian Bale's character gets it immediately because he's a great magician, but not a good showman. And he says immediately, it's like, this is the act. He sees the old man walking out of the theater. He's like, this is the act. And the old man's like hobbling over, like, this is the act right here. It's like, he's actually holding the fishbowl between his legs. But then when he's not performing, he doesn't, but he's to still continue to do that. So he lives a fake life. It's like, cause he's actually a really strong old man. And the thing that Hugh Jackman didn't get is like, how does he pick that up? Is because this entire time you don't know that Christian Bale's character is playing Half-Life 2.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's what it takes. It takes a lot of self-sacrifice to get you out. And then he hits the brick wall beside him and says, to get you out of all this. Like, to get you out of the muck, to get you out of the dirt, to get you out of like the shit life that you have.
It's like how much are you willing to
yeah.
sacrifice?
And that was
kind of question.
always like resonated with me. Like,
At what cost?
Yeah. And it's always been like the means will justify, right? But
Maybe. That's the question.
maybe. Yeah, that's the tough thing, right? And that's the really good thing at the very end. It's like I've done so much. It's like you spent a fortune, you've done nothing. Like everything you've done is like a foolish man could have done that. And then my second favorite sequence in the film is probably just the ending. Yeah, just pretty much the ending when like they're having the conversation where like Hugh Jackman's character is like dying. He's got a bullet in him, and then you see Christian Bale kind of just like confronting him. It's like, he's like, you took everything from me, blah, blah. And it's kind of this beautiful point where like Hugh Jackman's like, I did it for the smiles of people's faces. I did it to like show that the world isn't just solid through and through, that there's magic and we can still show that to people. And the fact that like you're telling me this crazy story of revenge and drama and people falling in love, people falling out of love, there's cheating going on, like people like are like struggling to like
In the
become
midst
the
of it
best.
all.
And then it's like also this like very, very, very somber, sad like story that like they're like people don't believe there's magic, but they need to believe it, and they love in that. And that's the big thing of the film, The Prestige. Is like first part is the pledge, and the second is the turn, then the third is the prestige.
Yep.
And you don't look at the turn. You want to be fooled. You want the magic to exist. And ever since I was like, he's talking about film. He's talking about like shit. Like he's talking it's everything. It's everything in life. And it's just like
That's a great. I never really thought of that before. That film can be put into that as well.
yeah, it's 3 acts.
Yeah.
Right. A 3 act structure. So that became my favorite movie of all time. But films that kind of like are still adding on to me. When I was in college, and this was like my 3rd or 4th year of college. I took 5. I took a long time. I was a frat boy. But Professor Douglas Rice. Shout out to him.
Douglas Rice.
He is the only professor that scared the living shit out of me. Whenever I took notes, I used a laptop. He's like, if I see an electronic device, I'm unenrolling you from this class. And it was one of the classes you needed to graduate. So everyone like day one
Paper
knew,
notes?
they knew. They were like, oh shit. So we all had to write notes out and we all had to read books and stuff like that. And we'd watch a movie and it would take us 3 weeks to watch a movie. And the movie that struck me the most was Midnight Cowboy. And Midnight Cowboy starring John Voight and Dustin Hoffman.
I'm walking here.
Yeah. We literally spent 3 hours. So they're once a week classes and they're 3 hour long and they're discussions. He's like, we're watching a movie. If you watched it, don't talk anything. If you haven't watched it, pay attention. Puts it in. And the first shot is a white frame. And then you hear horses and gunshots and then like a bolo get thrown.
Yeah.
And then he pauses. And the professor looks to everyone's like, where are we? Where in the world are we? Because the first shot should establish where you are. And this is the establishing shot. So the director made a decision to establish you here. Where are you? And we all looked at each other like, what the hell is going on? Like, what do we say? What do we do? There's no title. There's no black screen. There's no building. It was like, we're in a classroom. So it blew my mind. And he's like, where are we? And then I was like, we're in the desert. We're in the Western. We're in the whatever, right? The back in the old Western times and all that. We're cowboys and Indians, Native Americans, indigenous people. And he's like, okay. And he plays it. And then the frame pans out. It pans out, and what you're looking at is an old movie screen on top of a diner or a drive-in thing. And in the background, behind the screen, are real horses. In the foreground, closest to us, are fake horses. And then he pauses, like, well, now where are we? And then it's like, we're in a rundown drive-through movie theater. And he's like, exactly. It's like, what you see as reality is further away from you versus what's in front of you is fake.
Yep.
And after that, I was like,
You're just like, what the
hell? How am I supposed to pick that up? I was like, I'm just some dumb kid with a video camera. What the hell? And so, like,
I make movies.
yeah. And so,
prophecy
exactly.
was true.
And so ever since then, like, my eyeballs got ripped open and like, like 4 more got put in there. And so it's like and that film truly changed my offense. And so whenever someone asks me, like, what do you think is a film that has the most amount of meaning in it? I would say it's Midnight Cowboy. Because then right after that, it has John Voight in a shower and he's, shot off, he's framed in such a way where you see parts of his body. So it's objectifying the body at that sense. And then he gets out of there and he's looking in the mirror. And you think like, oh, he's checking himself out. But you really have to like allow yourself to think that Nichols, the director, was allowing the audience to see that he's also struggling with his identity.
Yeah.
And so then I was just like, oh my God, so that's how that class was. Like every 10 seconds, pause, what's happening? Pause, what's happening? I was like, oh my God. So it was almost like Navy SEAL training of the brain.
Jesus.
But that was a film that made me like every single time. Now I'm like, Josh, I watch a movie. I can't watch the movie. I have to watch what the director is telling me.
Yeah.
Looking at acting choices, looking at just things.
Shots,
Listening
yeah.
to sound.
What does it
Stories.
mean? Like, what's happening in the background? Why is that hat on the bedpost? Why is it not on a shelf?
That's why I see
asking
him
those
twice.
questions.
Because I do get in the lost in entertainment the first time I see a film, which is why if I really have to analyze something, or if we're going to talk about it here, I'll see it twice because the second time I can go, okay, I know what's happening. I'm going to pay attention now. Yeah.
But my last film that I want to talk about.
Real quick about that though, that famous line, I'm walking here, he's not actually like, he wasn't improvising. He was talking about stage direction. Dustin Hoffman was in an interview. He's like, I'm talking about the stage direction. I'm walking here. Like, I'm supposed to be walking here. The director told me to walk. So I am walking here, and you're in my shot when the taxi almost hit him. And I thought that was really interesting.
Oh, wow.
I thought it was
Funny.
just like
Yeah, that's funny.
I'm walking
the
here.
The story is told differently.
But yeah, he's like,
Yeah.
I meant walking as a stage direction, not as an action. I just thought that was interesting.
Dustin Hoffman, man, like right before that, I mean, early before that, he did The Graduate. So it was just like, we watched that too. So it was like, ever since then, I started having huge appreciation for Dustin Hoffman.
And then Tootsie.
Yeah. So the last film I'm going to talk about is a film that when I moved down to LA to pursue my film career, I don't know, Corey's pointing at me if you guys are, and his eyeballs are like Powerpuff Girl eyeballs right now.
I'm going to get, is it exit wounds?
Nope.
Okay.
I'm gonna enter your wounds soon. But the film that when I first moved down here in 2014, starring Michael Keaton, was Birdman by Alejandro Inarritu.
Yeah.
And so coming out of like
That
film
air quotes
school,
one shot.
Yeah, coming out of film school, I was kind of like, I don't know what I'm doing. I want to make films, but like I want to make sure like I have weight to what I'm thinking and how I think about story and how I think about character and how I think about like the industry as a whole. To make sure like I have a place. I'm not just some kid with stars in my eyes. And I watched the movie because my roommates were like, dude, this is going to be the Academy Award winner. Don't worry about it. Like, don't even watch any other movie. Just watch this. I'm like, cool. And I watched it and I was floored. I was like, this is amazing. And I had shitty seats. I watched it in the Pacific Theater outside of the Americana. And I was after like Christmas. So it was like stupid to get out of there and like 4 hours to get out of the parking lot. But I watched it. I was like, this is freaking amazing. And it wasn't like phenomenal then. But the real reason it became phenomenal for me was because a few months later was when the Academy Awards were going to come up. And then the director and the DP did a tour to the ArcLight theaters here. And they were showing all their films. And the last film they were going to end off was with Birdman. And I got a screener to watch it with them. And they were going to have a Q&A at the end of it. And watching the movie, yada yada, same movie. Still great. I could talk about it all day. We could do an episode on it. We won't, but we might. During the interview, for those who have watched it, the ending is questionable because we don't know what happens. In the beginning, it has a bunch of shots that are reflective at the end of like a jellyfish or like a rocket or like a meteor falling down to Earth. Like, what do these shots mean? Or like, what is the characters going through, and what is the film talking about in the industry itself? And the director answers all those questions the same way I answered it. And that was a really defining moment in my life where I was like,
oh, interesting.
I could have answered all those questions for
So you were
that
speaking
person.
the same language.
And that was the thing. I was like,
Deutsch.
yeah. And the crazy thing was like, this filmmaker had made like several films before this, all great films. And then he made this one, which was hands down the best. It got the best Academy Award for cinematography and for best film and best director. Yeah. And no, not best director, best film and best cinematography. And it was just crazy for me to think that like I could have a conversation with this director. I can talk to him and we can speak the same language, or we could like literally just have a drink and like talk, and like it would be great. And so for me, it felt like, okay, cool. I'm not just some kid that like has watched a lot of movies and studied.
This is when you knew Tom was Tom.
And so that was it. And that's
Tom found himself inside.
I think that's also when I became a snob, because I was like, you know what? I do have an idea. I do have opinions. I do have thoughts, and I do feel like there's a little bit of weight to it. But I'll always be open to hear other people's thoughts too, and like have these conversations.
Right.
Because it's because you never know who else might share it too.
Yeah.
So that was really beautiful for me.
I think that was really well said, Tom.
Yeah.
I think it's
He
great.
always says good things.
I think we learned a lot about each other this episode. I think it was fun.
Can I do something real quick? I have an honorable mention.
Guess, yeah. I'm just kidding. Yeah, go for it.
I'm learning that we hate each other.
Yeah.
I have an honorable mention for my films.
Sure.
Because I totally forgot about this film and I wish I didn't. It's called Cashback. It's a film that always.
Yeah. Wait.
Oh yeah, that's the with the stop time, right?
Yeah, he can stop time. To me, it has really shitty reviews. But here's the thing. You don't learn from reviews. You learn by watching it. It was a beautiful film. It has amazing...
Tom's going crazy because that's his... How do you feel about Rotten Tomatoes, Tom?
Fuck that shit. I mean, you know what? Everyone is all valid for their opinions and shit like that, but I just hate it when people are like, just let's look what the Rotten Tomato score is. I'm not going to watch it. Like before, when critics were meant to be used so they could save you money, now it's just kind of like for them to make funny puns because they couldn't make it as stand-up writers.
Yep.
Yeah,
I agree
so
with that.
Cashback is
But if Rotten Tomatoes
an amazing film, and I loved watching it. I've watched it many times. It was on my employee picks at Hollywood Video. I just loved it.
Oh my god, I remember that.
Right? And so everybody knows at home, exit wounds. This is all you need to know about it. This is all you need to know about it. It is a film that stars Steven Seagal and DMX.
Oh my god.
I know that. No, I know that movie.
I just yelled into the mic, what? DMX?
Yes.
I know that movie. My dad
man.
has that movie.
If anybody at home is going,
I've been joking about DMX this whole time and I had no idea.
So that's our episode.
God damn it.
Thank you everyone for watching. As of right now,
For watching?
For listening.
Wow.
You can watch though on YouTube as well. Josh, if they wanted to watch it, where could they watch it? That's my
Well,
not so
hey.
subtle segue.
Well, yeah, you can watch our show on YouTube, but you can listen so many places. There's so many places to listen to it.
All the
The big
podcast
one
places.
is Apple Podcasts. We are currently, sorry to timestamp everybody at home, we're currently on New and Noteworthy.
Thank y'all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you for
Snaps
listening.
for that.
Yeah,
Thank you for keeping it positive. We love you guys.
Yes.
Much love.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you can-
it really means a lot. It touched my heart, soul.
Yeah, it gave us raging nerd
Touched
ons.
my nerd on.
We were so
It
happy.
did.
And a lot more listens. So that means that there's a lot more people listening to Ollie's voice.
Yep.
That's what it's all about, anyways.
That's
Right?
why we did
That's what it
this.
comes
To
down
be
I mean,
honest.
in honor of that, like, why don't you hit us up on the Twitter? Why don't you hit us up on the Instagram, like, and tell us what you might want us to talk about?
yeah,
Yeah.
where can
Yeah.
they find those posts, Josh?
You can find us on Instagram at Nerd on the Podcast. You can find us on Twitter, Nerd on the Pod. Facebook, Nerd on the Podcast. We're not big boys on YouTube, so you've got to search Nerd on the Podcast. Yeah, every episode goes to YouTube, and they're sexy. They're pretty sexy videos.
Ollie does
Where
does
could they
that.
go if they forget all of that?
If you forget all of that, if you remember one thing, nerdonthepodcast.com. And guess what? We have a very exciting announcement.
Very exciting.
We have a shirt out right
Yeah.
now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's currently
Multiple
on sale.
shirts.
Yeah, multiple shirts.
They look so good.
They look so good.
My God.
Multiple colors.
That nerd on swag.
And they are a limited time availability.
When is the cutoff?
It is going to stop December 6th of 2017.
Get in time for Christmas.
So, yeah.
Get
your
that
swag
special
on.
nerd in your life some nerdy swag.
So you can nerd
Sport
on
it.
them.
Yeah.
Yes. Again, I'm Josh, one of the hosts. You can find me on Twitter, just Josh and ya. Tom hates
at
it
me
so
every
much
time.
that I say that.
Just Josh and yeah. But he's not. It's for real.
It's for real. My
At
Twitter
Just Josh
handle
and Ya.
is just Josh and ya. You can find me on Facebook, Joshua Sterling Manley, Instagram, Joshua S. Manley. You can find me on IMDb. You can find me PS4.
PSN.
Yeah, PSN. Sterling J85. Let's play. It'll be fun.
Oh wait, are we going back? Okay, well, I'm gonna do me. My name is Tom at Tall Dark Not
We're professionals.
Yeah. My name is Tom at Tall Dark Not Ugly on every social media except PlayStation, which is Tall Dark _ N0T Ugly.
There you go.
You can find me on YouTube and IMDb as Thomas Pet Borisooth. You can find some of the stuff I film with Corey
yeah.
on, and also you
Yeah.
could find some of my work with my boys up in SAC, the Capeless Crusaders on podcast app, as well as the capescrusaders.com.
Shout out to the Capes Crusaders.
Yeah.
You can find me at Corey89, Corey89, or We Are Storyboard, that's BORED.com, or at We Are Storyboard. Hit us up. You can find me on Blizzard too. You know, play some Blizzard games. Corthan, CORTHAN, or Corthaniel on Xbox. Find me. Let's play some James.
Ollie, you can find me on Twitter at FutureFoe. You can find me on YouTube /FutureFoe Plays. I do a lot of gaming stuff, so come on by. I also broadcast on Twitch. You can find me on Twitch /FutureFoe. Come hang out.
We're getting good at this. We're getting good at this part.
And a
Didn't
little-
you just say I was unprofessional?
No.
Okay.
No, this did not happen. But
Done.
everybody at home, as always, Nerd On.
Ending broadcast.